What is going on, everybody? Today we are back, and today it is time for yet another episode of Soul of the Skull. As is known, it has been 2 weeks since you last saw us live. It was a pre-recorded one last week, but we're happy to be back again for the NFL schedule this week. We got a whole slew of items in the bag today. As always, we got Sam on my left, we got me, we got special guests, which we'll introduce in about a minute here, and then we got Big Lou over there. So, if you guys have ever been on my YouTube channel before, you've probably seen this person around before. His name is Matt. We've done some Vikings-related content before, and I guess I'll throw it over to him. He can introduce himself. History as a Viking fan. Also, he was a guest listener, the caller that one time. So, it's the same person. Now you got the name to the face, or the voice to the face, I should say, and name as well. But, yeah, you can just say who you are, how, on a scale of 1 to 10, how excited you are to be here, and your history as a Viking fan, even though you already kind of did it once. We can do it again.
My name is Matt Larson. For those who don't know, me and Joel are cousins. That's why you see me so much. On a scale of 1 to 10, I'm on an 11 for being here. This is a pinnacle dream of mine, besides being your guys' first caller. And history as a Vikings fan, I would just say disappointment. At some point it's got to turn around, but I don't know if I'll ever see the day. So just take it day by day and hope for the best. But I'm really excited to be here.
So with that said, I'm going to have to ask you, when did you first become a fan? I think I did ask you this last time, but I'm going to ask again. When would you say you first became a fan, and or when did you become a true, day-to-day fan?
I would say when I first became a fan was when I was born, in 2002. When I became a real, true fan, I would say probably when I entered the 7th grade and I followed it more closely, and when I really got into fantasy football. But
let's think. When would you have been in 7th grade? That would have been
2015.
Okay. Yeah, I was going to say that was around the same time. One of my first memories really watching the Vikings was the Blair Walsh game in 2015. So
we were there. We watched that.
We were there. We were together. I was at his house actually that day.
We were planning on getting ready to watch a divisional round game, and then Blair Walsh missed it, and I punched the couch.
Yeah, I do still remember that day.
It was a tough one,
but yeah,
brighter days ahead.
So with that said, I think we're just about ready here. So we are going to start our eventful day with looking at the NFL schedule. So for all who are unfamiliar, the schedule came out on May 11th, which would have been a week and a half ago or so. So normally we would have looked at it last weekend, but because we weren't all together last weekend, we're going to save it for this week. So we're just looking around. I'll scroll through here. These are just a few. I'll just kind of scroll through the schedule that I hand typed here. You can ignore all the stuff. Actually, you guys might not be able to see my mouse. Well, yeah, maybe you can. But either way, ignore everything over here. That's for in season. We're gonna do more videos relating to that. But here you go. I'll just kind of scroll through it for you guys. And in a minute, we're gonna break down just some of the key games and all that stuff before we're gonna transition into Vikings and some of the key Vikings games. So as we approach here, this would be around Halloween in week 8. Then as we get down closer to 12, I think that's Thanksgiving. Sure enough, there's Thanksgiving. 16 will be Christmas. Sure enough, down here is Christmas. And then down here, that closes out the season there. So there you go. So there's the NFL schedule typed out right there. So we're going to kick it off, I think, right away with the first game, which is right here. Thursday Night Football to open the season. We've got the Detroit Lions headed out to KC to take on the Chiefs. When I saw this one the night before the schedule came out, I do follow the leaks and whatnot. When I saw that one, I was really surprised, but I was also really intrigued. We got the Chiefs, who are coming off the Super Bowl championship. Obviously, they're going to host the season opener per usual. And then we've got the Lions, who are an up-and-coming team that started 1-6 last year, but then Dan Campbell was able to, I think they went 6-1 to close out the year, or 7-1, something like that. So I think this is a really intriguing game. Chiefs should be able to win, but I mean, I like it, and I like them putting the Lions in primetime right away, so we can see what they've got cooking in the slow cooker.
Yeah, I agree with you, Joel, that the Chiefs will probably walk away with that one, but it'd be interesting to see how the Lions are this year, because they were really good towards the end of last year, and it'll be interesting to see what that team is this year, if they're any good or not. So that'll be an interesting game.
I think this game is going to be a bit of a surprise to us. I think that the Chiefs are going to, take this one home. But I think the Lions are going to be able to hold their own a lot better than a lot of people expect. They're a good team this year. They're NFC North contenders and honestly playoff contenders. I can see them, putting up over 20 points this game.
I forgot.
That's all right.
Yeah, this should be a good game. I like that the Lions are on prime time. They're a fun team to watch, especially down the stretch last year when they knocked the Packers out of the playoffs. That was a fun game for me to watch. But, the Chiefs should walk away with this. The Chiefs, it doesn't matter who Mahomes has at receiver. He'll make them look good. And it should be a high-scoring game. Chiefs win and good start to the season.
Also, kind of interesting looking at the game, knowing that Jamison Williams will be suspended for this one as for the first 6 games of the season. So we'll see. That will probably ding the Lions' chances, even though they're not favored by any way, shape, or form to win this. But we'll have to see how much that affects them. So as we move down, we'll find the next key kind of marquee game. We got a Monday night doubleheader, but we don't really need to delve too far into that one. Another Monday night doubleheader down there. Here's our first London game. We got the Falcons and Jags. Kind of an interesting one here, week number 4. So I guess we can just kind of briefly touch on this one. The Falcons are the Falcons, I guess, with Desmond Ridder at the helm. And then we got the Jaguars, who are coming off an AFC South win with Doug Peterson leading the team. So this is one I think the Jaguars should be able to win, but I think this is kind of an interesting game too.
Yeah, I agree that Joel. Jaguars, I think, just have more in their team and will be able to pull this one off. And the Falcons, you don't hear much about them anymore, so I just don't think the Falcons will have what it takes this year. Don't think they'll be a great team this year, and the Jaguars should be able to win this.
Jaguars should be able to win this one, but this is another game where I think it's going to be surprising. I think Bijan Robinson at this point will have established himself as a pretty good back. It kind of sounds like the Falcons are looking to use him as a wide receiver running back combo, similar to Cordero Patterson. We're going to really hope that this turns out to be a good game. Unfortunately, all these London games are pretty much disappointments, in my opinion. I feel bad for the people of Europe that want to watch the NFL, but at least they get to see the Jaguars do some good stuff.
I don't know for sure, but I think they kind of schedule bad games in London on purpose because they don't want to take away the important games like divisional games from the home stadium. So I think they kind of do that intentionally, but I mean, I guess the London fans, they get what they get. So
I mean, those poor fans probably think Jacksonville's the best team in the NFL because they're always out there. And that's what they always get to see in person. But, Calvin Ridley, he'll be back this year. It is his revenge game against the Falcons. And there's really no excuse for the Jags this year. I mean, last year, not a lot of expectation. They won the AFC South this year. Adding Calvin Ridley, Trevor Lawrence supposed to progress in his 3rd year. They could be AFC contenders, and the sky's the limit. So anything, if they don't even win the AFC South, I think it's just a lost season. But
I still think, this is a spot where definitely the Jaguars should be able to win it, especially with such a weak division. The Colts are down at the bottom. They also have Anthony Richardson, but he's not going to carry him to a divisional title. At least I wouldn't think so. And then, I mean, everyone else there, the Titans are just kind of in the middle. We don't really know what they're going to be after they had such a hot start last year, and then they lost, 6 or 7 in a row to end the year. So, and then the Texans, the Texans, they've been stuck at the bottom for a while now.
I'll be interested to see when Will Levis gets his shot at the helm or if Ryan Tannehill takes firm control of the quarterback spot.
Yeah, so also, we're going to have to keep in mind that this is going to be the first season for Calvin Ridley with the Jaguars ever since he... I'm right. I was questioning myself for a minute there. But yeah, with Calvin Ridley being suspended all of last year, and he only played 5 games in 2021, so we haven't seen a lot from him recently. He has put up good numbers over the years. He had almost 1,400 yards in 2020, but that's going to be an interesting one just to watch how Calvin Ridley does there.
I don't know if you guys saw this or not, but Devontae Adams actually said that Calvin Ridley is the 4th best receiver in the NFL. So we'll see how that turns out. Not sure that'll go Devontae's way. But I think he's going to have a good season.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, I would disagree with that Devontae opinion,
Absolutely,
but
you are.
he's just trying to hype him up. We got the Jaguars then back to back in London, this time against the Bills. That one's a lot less likely of a Jags win there. But we're just going to keep moving through here. Some other interesting ones, the Ravens and Titans. That could be an interesting one. I'd like the Ravens, but that one could be an interesting game there in London. As we keep moving along, I think we're approaching the Frankfurt games. Yep, there's our first one. Dolphins and Chiefs. I think that could be a really good game. We got Mahomes and the Chiefs against Tua and Mahomes' old boy Tyreek and Jalen Waddle too. That's gonna be an interesting one there. Two really good offenses could be going at it. That's one I think we'll have to look out for, especially maybe with AFC playoff seeding when that rolls around in January. So with that said, we'll just keep looking. There's our second one, the Colts and Patriots. A lot less interesting of a game than Dolphins and Chiefs up there. But as we keep rolling through, we got... There, we'll go to Thanksgiving here. Right here, these three games are the Thanksgiving three. Starting it off, we got the Packers and the Lions, to be followed by the Commanders and the Cowboys, and then the Niners and Seahawks close it out. So I think Packers and Lions could be an interesting one, especially with... I think this could be a competitive game because a lot of Vikings fans, I think, just throw the Packers away, but I'm not ready to do that yet. And we saw how good they've been, but all they've done is got rid of their quarterback. They still have players, and they still have plenty of good players, as we've seen. So I don't think they're going to go from being the Packers that we've known for years. I mean, last year was kind of an exception, but I don't think they're going to go from that all the way down to like a top 10 draft pick. I still think they're going to be feisty. They're going to be in the wild card race come January, contrary to most Vikings fans. But then we got the Lions, like we talked about earlier. They're going to be a feisty team in the running for the division. I think this is going to be a good game here.
I could definitely see this one being an interesting one. You know, they have a lot of weapons on their team. I'm going to just touch on Christian Watson. He's a good wide receiver. I think there's no doubt in that. He had 41 receptions for 611 yards and 7 touchdowns last year. But he showed late bursts in the season. Maybe this is a little bit controversial, but I could see him going for almost 1,000 yards this year.
Oh, I could too.
He's an incredible athlete, super fast, really good hands. I mean, I think the Lions versus the Packers is just going to be a great game.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if you would have watched the first... I'm sorry there.
No, you're good.
I would just say Christian Watson, North Dakota State products are very local for us Minnesotans. If you would have watched the first game that he ever played against the Vikings, you would not have known he had good hands, but he really came on well as of late, and with Jordan Love at the helm, he's definitely going to be the number one option for him.
Yeah, after a tough start to the season, he really was able to pick it up. But moving forward, we got the Cowboys and Commanders, kind of a man game there. Cowboys, will definitely be in their running, probably for the postseason this year. And the Commanders are just kind of there. They're kind of in a weird state. We don't really know what's going to happen with them. So that's one where I think the Cowboys should definitely be able to take that game. Then we got the Niners and Seahawks. I think that could be an interesting one too. We got the Niners, who are potentially the best overall team in the entire NFL, even without a true quarterback under center there right now, against the Seahawks, who were able to sneak in as the final wild card team last year. I think this could be a really interesting game, especially it's going to be interesting to see how Geno Smith does, especially after having such a good year last year and knowing how he wasn't very good in his career up until last year. So I think this is another game that we're going to have to watch for. I think this could be a really pretty interesting one on Thursday night.
Well, yeah, that could really depend on what the quarterback situation is for the Niners there. Because isn't Purdy going to be out for like first 6 weeks or something of the regular season because of injury still?
I think so, but I mean, that's just so far in the future, hard to tell at this point.
And then
we'll see.
Who else do they have for quarterback?
Not Garoppolo anymore. They got is it
Darnold? Minnesota guy.
Sam Darnold and
Trey
Lance.
Lance.
Yep. So currently, Brock Purdy is listed as the starter for the 49ers. Trey Lance is listed as the backup, and Sam Darnold is listed as the number 3. I think that as soon as Purdy is healthy, they really like him. He's going to be the starter. Yeah. I think he really proved himself this year. I mean, you don't see Mr. Irrelevant ever making a splash in the NFL, and he did just that. He's an outstanding athlete. He's really good arm talent. He's mobile when he needs to be. I mean, Brock Purdy is probably the greatest Mr. Irrelevant there's ever been.
Yep.
Yeah, so that's going to be an interesting one there. Kind of interesting, though, how Trey Lance is still on the Niners, especially when, I mean, it's just me, but I don't think he's going to be there week 1, but then I don't know what the Niners are going to do with him either other than try and trade him somewhere. I don't even know how much they can net for him considering how quickly they've given up on him. He was a number 3 overall pick, so he's one that I'd actually like. I'm still in support of the Vikings taking a shot at him, but if they can lowball him, that'd be cool, but whatever. Kind of interesting, though, that they haven't done anything with him, but looks like they don't have a whole lot of faith in him. But moving down, we got our first ever Black Friday game in the history of the NFL. It is the Dolphins and the Jets. Kind of like that Dolphins and Chiefs game. This could be another interesting offensive showdown here. We already kind of talked about the Dolphins with Jalen and Tyreek and Tua going up against the Jets with Aaron Rodgers and Elijah Moore and all them guys and Alan Lazard. It's kind of funny just hearing him there. But that could be a really interesting game there too, I think, between two potentially really good offenses.
Yeah, I think in this game, I forget his name, the running back, Breece Hall. I think Breece Hall is going to have a big game here. The Dolphins' run defense hasn't been great over the past couple of years. Their defensive backs have been pretty much outstanding. So now they have the addition of Jalen Ramsey. So that cornerback duo of Jalen Ramsey and Xavier Howard is going to be deadly. So I think that they're going to try to keep it with a strong run game. I know that they have Aaron Rodgers now, but I don't see him throwing for over 200 yards against these guys.
Yeah, you're probably right there, but we'll see it everything as the weeks progress because it's hard to tell now like what they're all gonna do, but should be an interesting game.
So as we continue, we'll keep looking. I think Christmas is really the next big thing. We got another Monday night doubleheader right there. Titans, Dolphins, and then Packers and Giants. We got a whole bunch of flexible games. They can be either Saturday or they can be Sunday. That's how the Vikings and Colts game was last year, and that game got flexed to a Saturday. And then as we keep moving down, we got Christmas. We got some interesting ones here. A couple Saturday scheduled games. I don't think we've really ever had this. How's I going to approach this? Let's think. Christmas is on a Monday, so all these games are on a Sunday. Normally, if Christmas was on a Sunday, they'd move all the games to Saturday. But since it's on a Monday, kind of interesting that they have games scheduled on Saturday and not Sunday. I don't know if they've ever done this before, but kind of interesting look here. Bengals and Steelers, good AFC North showdown there. And then Bills and Chargers, I'd look for that game to close out Saturday night. So I don't know if you guys have anything on that one, but I think kind of interesting they have got some Saturday scheduled games there.
I got nothing to add.
Perfect. Well, then we're going to keep moving. We got Christmas here to the Raiders and Chiefs, which is an okay game. Oh, never mind. I thought I missed a parenthesis, but I did not. The Raiders and Chiefs should be able to win that one at home. Then we got the Giants and Eagles. Eagles, I think, also should be able to win that one at home. And then Ravens and Niners. I'd look to that game. I think that one's the most interesting that we got there. We got Lamar, and then we already talked some about the Niners. So that's the one I'd look for is that late game.
The Ravens are going to be a lethal bunch this year. I'm just going to look up their depth chart just really quickly. But with the addition of Zay Flowers to their team, they're just going to be outstanding. So they got Lamar, obviously, taking the quarterback starting spot. And now with the addition of Odell Beckham Jr., this is going to be a very interesting game. Rashad Bateman, Odell Beckham Jr., Zay Flowers, and Mark Andrews is an outstanding group. You know, Rashad Bateman, the Minnesota product, he had 15 receptions for 285 yards and 2 touchdowns. He didn't play a whole lot of games, though. I think he only played...
He was injured.
Looks like he played 5 games, and he still put up 285 yards. So...
Sam, I got a question for you about you were saying how, like, the Ravens, you like the receiver core. Would you rather have the Ravens, like, with Lamar Jackson, or would you rather have the Vikings core with Kirk Cousins and Jefferson there?
It's a good question. I'm going to take the Vikings all day. It's not even a question for me.
I will as well.
Yeah.
Here's the thing. Rashad Bateman is a good player. He's no Justin Jefferson. Odell Beckham Jr. is a good player. He's no Jordan Addison. Honestly, I'd rather take KJ Osborne over Odell Beckham Jr. or Zay Flowers at the moment.
Yeah.
And I'll take TJ Hawkinson over Mark Andrews all day.
I gotta agree with you there. I just want to see what your take was, because you're like, oh, these are good guys. It's
Oh
like,
yeah,
you
there's no doubt
Yeah.
that this is one of the best receiver cores in the NFL. However, Vikings is way better.
And especially with the Ravens having a new offensive coordinator, Todd Monken, coming over from the University of Georgia, seeing how they want to change because they've been such a run-heavy team since Lamar became the quarterback. Now you have these receivers. We should see how they want to switch that up.
Yeah,
Trusting Lamar with his arm because they're paying him the big bucks to do it.
well, exactly, and I think that their offensive line really kind of helps them out with that strong run game. I mean, they have more offensive linemen than any team I've ever seen. It looks like currently on the roster they have 18 offensive linemen. Ronnie Stanley, Tyler Linderbaum are just the better ones in my opinion. But yeah, I think they're just gonna have a really good season this year.
So with that said, we can move into the second to last week of the year. Following Christmas, we've got week 17, another Saturday scheduled game there. Interesting one. We got the Lions and Cowboys. I'd think Dallas should be able to win that one, but that could be a feisty one there for the Lions, especially with them potentially looking for the division. Then as we move down, this is all New Year's Eve. We got the Packers and Vikings, which we'll delve more into later as we're about to get into the Vikings schedule, and then that's all the games to close out the year. One of them will be Sunday night, maybe Vikings-Lions, but we'll see. So with that said, unless you guys have any other big games in here that you want to touch on, I think we can start moving into the Vikings.
I don't know how you miss it. Week 11, we're getting a Super Bowl rematch.
Ooh.
Okay, we got Eagles traveling to Super Bowl champion Chiefs. I was hoping we'd tell you touch on that one, but that's probably one of the most exciting games, I would say, just because it was a Super Bowl. Eagles, the most complete team from top to bottom in terms of roster. But then you got the Chiefs with the best player in the entire NFL, and Patrick Mahomes. It'll be a fun one.
That is a good game.
That will be interesting. And it's at the Chiefs, too.
Yeah.
I bet that will play a huge role in who wins at that home field advantage.
Yeah, we'll see how Patrick Mahomes can do against the Georgia defense. I mean, the Eagles defense.
I mean, you're not wrong there. You're just drafting a bunch of winners. They've won in college.
I mean, it's
They know
working.
they're
It's
gonna win.
worked.
Yeah,
For the most part, it's
maybe
worked.
That's what the
So
Vikings should do.
They're going to get their coach now, too?
I'd still stick with Sirianni. I don't really like.
But still, you're
I don't really like him, but
drafting all the players. Might as well get
the
the
Georgia
coach.
pipeline's running deep.
just get the whole team.
Yeah.
Everyone. Just get the whole organization.
Just sign them like some minor league deal.
Let's just change them to the Georgia Eagles.
It looks like, so just looking at the Eagles here, it looks like the only gap that you can even imagine would be their wide receivers. Yes, they have A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith. Quez Watkins, though, is a little bit questionable on his play. But they have two outstanding wide receivers. And honestly, Dallas Goedert and Dan Arnold are not going to be that bad at tight end. Dallas Goedert obviously had a great season last year. And now adding a bunch of new players on defense. They added Jalen Carter in the first round. And they added Kelly Ringo in the third, I believe.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, I don't even think receiver's even an issue because they have Jalen Hurts who's so mobile it doesn't even matter. He's not a pocket passer, so you don't need three receivers deep.
Which is exactly what I'm saying.
So,
yeah.
They just simply have such a good roster. There's no way that they don't have a great season.
I'll be interested also to see DeAndre Swift probably become the new lead back there in Philly. He's another good receiving option out of the backfield.
Yep, and then they got Rashad Penny and Kenneth Gainwell as well. So this is going to be a fun season to watch.
Mm-hmm.
It definitely will be.
So with that said, we're now going to transition into the Minnesota Vikings, as you guys are all probably here for. We'll zoom it in there. So this is the Vikings schedule this year. What we're going to do is we're going to kind of quick go through each game, give a little spiel about it. We're going to highlight it green or red, each of us. Do we think it's going to be a win? Do we think it's going to be a loss? And then we're all going to see how we compare up at the end of the year. Keep in mind, before the schedule came out, we did a wins and losses on a mock schedule that I made. Sam here and Big Lou over there both had them going, I believe, 11 and, what would it be, 6?
11 and 6.
And then I had them going 9 and 8, so we'll see how that compares. We'll also be doing another schedule picking as we get a lot closer to the season, like into training camp or the preseason. So we'll do one now, and then we'll do one a lot closer to then and see how much it changes. With that said, we are going to kick it off. They are starting at home against the Tampa Bay Bucks. The Bucks are probably not going to be that great of a team, but also the entire NFC South isn't good either, so they could make a run for the championship, even though maybe it is only 8 wins for the championship of that division, just like it was last year. So I'm going to lead us off. KOC is going to have this team prepared. This could be a trap game, but I don't quite think so. Give me the Vikings at home to start the season 1-0.
Yeah, I'm going to have to agree with you on that one, Joel. I think Tampa Bay is going to be okay, but with Baker Mayfield leading the team, that's going to be a rough season in my opinion. I'm also going to take the Vikings in this one.
Yeah, I gotta agree with you guys here. That's gonna be a win for me for the Vikings here, and it just Tampa Bay lost Tom Brady's a quarterback. They got Baker Mayfield there. I just don't think they have the players to do it. So I think they're gonna win that pretty easily.
It'll be a clean sweep of wins off the board. I don't think it'll be a terrible season for the Buccaneers, but definitely week 1 with Baker Mayfield at the helm. It'll be a rough sled to start the season.
All right, following their week 1 game, which hopefully they should be able to win, we got a really tough one out of the gate. The Vikings are headed to probably their worst nightmare, which is Philadelphia, on a Thursday night. Short week, tough game. I think for the most part, we're probably going to have the same answer here, but you never know. Maybe some people are going to mix it up. I'm going to give the Vikings a loss here. The Eagles are just too complete of a team here. With it at home on a short week, they're going to have the advantage in pretty much every way you can think of. So I would take Philly in this game.
You know what, Joel? I think I'm going to have to agree with you. However, I do think that the Vikings are going to surprise fans. I think that they're going to do better than expected with a new defense, hopefully being able to contain Jalen Hurts a little bit. I also think that Jordan Addison is going to go crazy this game. I think that they're going to focus 100% on Jefferson. Against Tampa Bay, their defensive backs aren't too strong, so Jefferson's going to go. He's going to be great anyways. But I think this is a game where Jordan Addison's going to do great. However, I will be giving the Vikings a loss on this one.
So I agree with these two guys that the Vikings will lose this game, but I think it's going to be a low-scoring, close game because you got the Vikings have a really good offense, and you got Philadelphia Eagles all rounded all well. So I think that it's just going to be a dogfight battle, and it's going to come down to the little things, and it's really going to be a close game in my opinion. It's just going to be one mistake that's caused a touchdown or in field goal range, which is really going to lose it. But I do think it'll be a loss for the Vikings.
And that'll be another clean sweep across the board. Philly's just too talented, and especially this early into the season, it'd be tough for the Vikings. Now, down the road, a potential playoffs, I feel like the gap could close more, but to start the year, that's a tough Thursday night game.
So as we continue, we've got week 3, which features the 2020 Offensive Rookie of the Year, which was scrutinized by many Vikings fans when it happened. Justin Herbert coming into US Bank Stadium for the first time, I believe, to face off against the Minnesota Vikings. I think this is a game where the Vikings bounce back. They're going to have extended rest now, especially with them having a Thursday night game the week before. So I'm going to give the Vikings a win here. They're going to get back in the win column, get back over 500 again. I think this is just a game they just simply are going to be able to put Philadelphia in the rearview mirror and look ahead.
So, this is going to be a great game.
It will be a good game.
This is going to be so much fun to watch. Justin Herbert he's so talented. I mean, he's only gotten better the longer he's been in the NFL. And I think some people would argue that he's the best quarterback of his class. I wouldn't say so. I'd still take Joe Burrow. But this is just a really talented team. Now with the addition of Quentin Johnston, the wide receiver from TCU, they are going to be lethal. But I think the Vikings defense is going to step up. The Vikings are going to take this one home for a W.
I gotta agree with you too that the Vikings will be able to pull this off. I do think it will be mainly in part to the Brian Flores' new defensive scheme, and I think the defense will be able to hold them pretty good. And our offense being a weapon it was last year with the addition of Jordan Addison, I think we'll be able to outscore them pretty good. So I'm gonna take this as a good win for us.
Well, I'm sorry that it's all repetitive here, but through the first 3 weeks, we all feel the same. I think, but week 3 especially is the time where the uncertainty in terms of last year's draft class with Andrew Booth and the defense having to step up. This will be that game where they have to make a statement and set the tone for the rest of the year. But I think we'll win. I think we'll win a close one.
So far, we've concurred on everything, but I think when we get to week 5 against KC, might be where we start splitting paths here. But week 4, we'll see if we're unanimous again. We've got the Vikings headed to Carolina to take on Bryce Young, Adam Thielen, and the guys out there. Again, we're going to look for Adam Thielen, but I think the Vikings are going to have plans to prevent that as much as possible. Could be an interesting game. Hopefully the Vikings don't trip up here, but I think it's also key that the Vikings are playing them early in the season. Maybe Carolina could actually have a decent team as we get closer to the end. So it's perfect they play them week 4, maybe before everything is ironed out. So this is a game where I think the Vikings should be able to win on the road, and I think they will be able to win on the road. Give me a victory here in Carolina, 3-1 start. But don't worry, guys. I promise my wins will not stay at this pace. So buckle in. Just wait.
So I'm also going to give them the win. However, I'm a little bit torn here. The Carolina Panthers are going to be a much better team than most people expect next year. Bryce Young, he scored a 98% on the S2 aptitude test, which is the highest score ever recorded. So we got to understand, this guy is thinking on a completely different level. Adam Thielen's going to want his revenge for the Vikings not re-signing him. I think that he's going to try to go crazy. Plus their new receiver, I believe DJ Chark, is on the team now. This is just going to be a really good game. I think it's going to be a 3-point game. This is going to be a close one, but I'm going to say the Vikings take it home.
Yeah, I agree. The Vikings will win this one. I just think that our defense should be able to stop them. Cause it looks like here Thielen's kind of listed as their number 1 receiver, and I just don't see him being kind of number 1 because he's kind of utilized with the Vikings as when they're double teaming Jefferson, then he will become more open kind of on that one-on-one situation. I think if we kind of take him away and with our strong offense that we should have this year, I think we'll be able to take care of the Panthers.
Yeah, it was perfect seeing Big Lou mention that he's listed as a wide receiver 1 because I just simply don't think he's a wide receiver 1. I mean, we all saw him last year. We all saw him the year before too. I mean, it's kind of clear he's lost a step. I just don't think he's going to be able to put a team on his back. So
I think at some point in the season that DJ Chark is going to move up to that number 1 spot. Well, plus the addition of Miles Sanders and new wide receiver Jonathan Mingo, this is going to be a very, very talented offense.
It's Thielen's always kind of been used to being that number 2 receiver because he was behind Diggs, now he's behind Jefferson. So he always had someone to kind of take that double team off of him really and onto those better receivers. So he's kind of more had those one-on-one matchups, and I think he excels in that, especially kind of the shorter yardage games, whatever there. And I don't think he'll be able to handle being that kind of number 1 receiver.
Yeah, I also got the Vikings taking a win over the Panthers. I think it's just too early in the season. There's still going to be the learning curve jumping from college to the NFL for Bryce Young. But I think Jonathan Mingo at some point will take that leap to be the number 1 receiver for this team. He's just got all the talent. He's being compared a lot to A.J. Brown. Not saying he's going to be him, but he's got a lot of talent. And I think Bryce Young and Jonathan Mingo, as both rookies, are going to build a connection early. But as in week 4, it'll probably be a lower scoring game. Panthers have a great defense that doesn't get talked about enough, but Vikings will pull through and go 3-1.
So this is where I think maybe we're going to start splitting our paths and taking different roads here. Patrick Mahomes comes into US Bank Stadium for a game I thought would be primetime, but I suppose it's not. Either way, it's a 3:25 Central start. We have got the Kansas City Chiefs headed to Minnesota. Now, this is a game, I think it could be a shootout. It could be really big back and forth. There could be a lot of points put up in this game, but this is one where I think maybe it'll come down to whoever holds the ball last. And to me, who would I prefer to have the ball at the end of the game, Kirk Cousins or Patrick Mahomes? I mean, we saw how well Kirk Cousins was last year, but Mahomes is just simply the better player. I'm going to take KC here. I mean, this is a game that really could go either way, but I just simply think the Chiefs are just such a good team. And especially when you look at, they both have elite offenses. I think KC has a pretty good defense, and definitely their defense is better than Minnesota's. So that's where I think the Vikings could be exploited is the Chiefs' offense against the Viking defense. Even though the Viking defense will be better, I still just think that's where we're going to have to watch out for. But yeah, give me KC in this one.
Like Joel said, I also think this is going to be a shootout. It's going to be a very close game. There's going to be lots of big plays. I'm sure there will be at least one play over 70 yards. I think Kadarius Toney as Kansas City's wide receiver 2 or 3 is going to go off. I don't think we're going to have the tools to cover him. I am also going to take KC in this one. I don't think the Vikings are going to be able to pull it off against Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs.
So I just looked up the Kansas City's schedule here. They play the Lions, Jaguars, Bears, Jets, and then Minnesota at home. So I think they're kind of on almost an easier schedule, and they're not going to have like a super tough team. I mean, they play Detroit week 1, which may be a tough matchup. But I think they'll start off the season either like 3-1 or 4-0, and I think the Vikings may surprise them with like the new offense and everything. And I see this being like a shootout, but I think the Vikings will be able to come on top on this one, just because like it's at home. Plus the Chiefs have kind of had an easier schedule so far. I think the Vikings will be able to surprise them.
I just want to say how blessed we are to watch 2023 MVP Kirk Cousins and 2-time Super Bowl champ Patrick Mahomes play each other in Week 5. I mean, this is already, we can already highlight this as maybe game of the year in the NFL. But I think Patrick Mahomes is just too good. He's just got that it factor. So I think the Chiefs are gonna win, but being a potential Super Bowl preview already in Week 5. I mean, what more can you ask for if you're a young quarterback watching this game? You get to watch 2 great quarterbacks play. But
So coming off KC, Minnesota gets to head on the road now, week number 6 for our first game in the division. They're traveling to Soldier Field to take on the Chicago Bears. We've seen how the Vikings have struggled in Chicago over the years, but they've had actually success over the past 3 years now or so. So this is one where I'll just keep it short. I'll keep it simple. The Bears are a better team, but it's still pretty early in the year. The Vikings should be able to take this one and bounce back from that KC tough loss.
Yeah, I'm also going to give Minnesota the win. I know Justin Fields is a really good player, and I think he'll only grow this next year. I mean, he's gonna be putting up stats like Lamar Jackson on his rookie year within the next couple of years. You know, now I know that he was rated whatever you said 34th or whatever among quarterbacks, Joel, and Justin Jefferson was rated higher than him at one point. But I still think that he's going to be a much better player this year. However, Minnesota's going to take this one home.
Yeah, I just don't see the Bears being a strong team, especially towards the beginning of the year here. Just like they ended up getting the first pick this year. They weren't a great team last year. I just don't think they have a complete team who can beat the Vikings both offense and defensively. I just think the Vikings can overpower them here and beat the Bears in Chicago.
well, this is the first time I get to differ with you guys. This is screaming trap game because they are looking ahead to San Francisco on Monday night, thinking this is going to be an easy win. You got to remember, according to random people on Twitter, Justin Fields is better than Kirk Cousins. And Justin Fields will have a great season. We're in Chicago. It's a trap game. I don't think we're going to pull it out. We'll probably lose on a field goal. Something Chicago is very good at doing, winning on game-winning field goals. But yeah, that'll put me at 3-3 to start the year. Rough start.
So with that said, we are going to continue moving along. Here's where the schedule gets a bit interesting. We have got the Vikings hosting the San Francisco 49ers for the first Vikings primetime home game of the year. Again, a lot of uncertainty with the 49ers. They've got such a good roster. It's like a car. They got this Ferrari. They're just waiting for the driver to hop in. And I think no matter who's at quarterback, 49ers are just such a tough team. They wear down opponents. This is one where I think the Niners are going to take it, and maybe this could be the beginning of a tough stretch for the Vikings. So give me the 49ers in a tough game here. I think this is one where the Niners are going to run the ball and just eat at the Vikings.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with Joel here. I'm going to take the loss, and here's why. The Niners do so well with their run game, and the Vikings are struggling with their linebackers. Now, if Ivan Pace, William Huber, or Abraham Beauplan with the enormous hands can step up, that would be ideal. I don't see that happening, though. I'm going to take the 49ers, and I think that Christian McCaffrey will go over 150 total yards.
You're probably right there. I do agree with you guys that the Vikings will not be able to handle the Niners here. The Niners are just too good of a team for the Vikings at this point in time, and yeah, they're going to take the L here.
I'm going to go a different course than you guys. If they follow the way I've been seeing it going, 2 straight losses, they go home on Monday night in an offensive shootout with MVP Kirk Cousins at the helm. In a shootout, probably 41-38 final score. I think the Vikings will just have enough offensive power, but I do agree the defense will not be able to hold strong.
So with that said, after their tough one, they head out to Lambeau Field. This is one where I've seen Viking fans left and right saying the Vikings are sweeping the Packers no matter what this year since Aaron Rodgers is gone. Well, guess what? I'm going to preview this game with a stat for you guys. Opponents that played the 49ers last year proceeded to go 0-15 at the week after playing the 49ers, because that's how much the Niners wore down their opponents. 0-15 in the week after. So this is one. It's in Green Bay. Vikings are going to take the game later in the year against the Packers. I'll already preview that one now. But this is one where, like I said earlier, the Vikings are beginning to trip, and I think they're going to drop another one here against the Packers, dropping them to 4-4.
Yeah, I think I'm going to have to agree with Joel on this one. Green Bay is a very hostile territory. There's not really much, Vikings fans are very unwelcome at Green Bay. But, yeah, I'm just going to take the L on this one. I think Jordan Love is going to go crazy. I think Christian Watson is going to go crazy. I think Jordan Love will go for over 300 passing yards.
Yeah, I gotta agree with you guys. I mean, the Packers, I don't think are gonna have a very strong team this year, but yeah, like Joel said, the Niners wearing the team down, and just like at Lambeau, that atmosphere for Vikings, just not great it seems like, and it's just such a good atmosphere there that I think the Packers will be able to beat the Vikings here.
I'm going on a whim here and saying you're going to have the Vikings take the win.
You looked at
No,
my
I did not
sheet,
look. I did not look.
I do have it because I understand this whole you're going to be worn down after playing San Francisco. If you're not amped to play your rival going into Lambeau Field, don't show up. These Vikings will be amped and ready to go because they want to take it to the Packers. This is their best. I mean, they won the NFC North last year, but they really feel that this is the time where they can dominate this division and go make a statement game in Lambeau. So I think Kirk Cousins will continue this MVP run, and the Vikings will turn the ship after 2 tough losses against Kansas City and Chicago.
It's just kind of funny looking at the spreadsheet here. Me and Sam have been exactly the same. Big Lou's been mostly the same, and then you've pretty much every game you've been opposite of us.
I've started to change, but that's the point. You got to be bold with your predictions. And why do you think First Take is so successful? I mean, they're all over the place.
Because everything they say is controversial.
Controversial
that's what gets
and
viewers.
all over the place. Exactly.
That's what gets viewers. So that said, we now head into Week 9 as it gets tough for the team just because of how worn down they are with them having such a late bye this year. The Vikings head out to Atlanta, who I voted as one of the worst uniforms in the entire NFL. But that's kind of irrelevant to this. They got bad uniforms. They also don't have a great team. I'm going to take the Vikings in this one, especially with them having 2 losses in a row. This is one where the Vikings are going to be able to come back and get back in the win column.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with you, Joel, here. I think that they're going to try to overuse Bijan Robinson in this game. I think they're going to try him out at receiver, and the Vikings are going to have better DBs than we're expected to this year. I think a lot of the time he's going to be matched up with either Mekhi Blackman or Jay Ward, and they're just going to shut him down. Vikings take the win.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with you guys here that coming off of 2 losses at Niners, Green Bay, they're going to be ready to take it to the Falcons, and I just don't see the Falcons having enough weapons on offense to defeat the Vikings defense and enough weapons on defense to stop the Vikings offense. So I think the Vikings will win here probably by a 2-score game.
All right, so this game's in Atlanta.
Yes.
We're not overseas. We're not going to be in London.
No.
Kyle Pitts ain't scoring a touchdown. That's all I can tell you. But the Vikings are going to win this game. You know, they're going to, in my fantasy land, they're going to go win 3 in a row. I do agree. Bijan Robinson will be overused. And, I mean, there's just not a great offensive depth at receiver for the Falcons. So that's where they're probably going to run into trouble. And that's why they're going to want to pound the ball so much. And the Vikings will be ready for it. Can't believe I'm saying that, but the Vikings will be ready defensively, and yeah.
So with that said,
I'm glad we agreed on something.
That was our first time agreeing since week 4. But after finally all agreeing on one, we now head to week 10 for another NFC South opponent. The Vikings host the New Orleans Saints. I almost said in Sean Payton, but not Sean Payton. We'll actually get Sean Payton next week, though. But the Vikings will host the New Orleans Saints, who got Alvin Kamara, Derek Carr, Michael Thomas. They got
Chris Olave.
And yeah. So it's going to be an interesting one there. Marcus Davenport for the Vikings now. See if he gets at least 1 sack in this game. But I think the Saints, again, they could be in the running for the NFC South, but the NFC South is just simply so poor that any team really can win that division at this point. So I would take the Vikings to win this one. This is one they should be ready for, and this is one they just simply should win. They're the better team.
Joel, I hate to differ with you for the first time, but I'm actually going to give the Vikings a loss here, and I'll tell you why. The Vikings against the Saints, it always comes down to the wire. And with Derek Carr on the team now, I think he's going to blow up. Yeah, he did well with Devontae Adams. I think he's going to do even better with Chris Olave. I think that the Vikings are just not going to be able to hold their own, are going to be coming off an easy win in Atlanta. I just don't think that they're going to be able to pull it off.
I actually got the perfect world scenario. The Vikings are up by a good amount at halftime. Derek Carr comes out of the game and gets benched, and then Jameis Winston comes in and eats the W.
Eats the W.
He eats the W. Comes from behind to eat the W. That would actually be pretty funny if that happened.
That would be awesome.
So, I think the Vikings will take the dub here, just because I think the Vikings will be a decently rounded team this year. They're not going to be no Eagles, Niners that's fully well-rounded team, but I think their offense is going to be really good this year, and their defense is going to be decent. So I think the Vikings should be able to take care of the New Orleans, who don't have a great team overall. So
I'm going to have to agree with Sam on this one. I think the Vikings are going to lose for the sole fact that it's another trap game. They're looking ahead to Denver, who's going to be a lot better than they were last year with Sean Payton as a coach. And screw this Jameis Winston talk. Derek Carr is going to have a great season. He was a Pro Bowler last year. I know the Pro Bowl means absolutely nothing to anyone anymore. But Derek Carr is going to have a nice bounce-back season with
He balled
New
out
Orleans.
in those Pro Bowl games. He actually played really well.
Absolutely. But, yeah, I mean, Vikings, in my fantasy land, have won 3 in a row. They're going to stumble at some point. They're going to be looking ahead to Denver, and they're just going to tumble.
So with that said, we now head to a interesting one here. The Vikings are back in prime time for actually 2 weeks in a row, but we kick it off on the road in Denver to face off against Russell Wilson, let him cook, and the Broncos. This is one where, again, the Vikings coming off, I have 2 wins in a row now. I'm going to give them a loss here. I think the Broncos are a better team than they were last year. Nathaniel Hackett was a dumpster fire and nothing better than that. Because it's true. Sean Payton's a lot better of a coach. We've seen him take the Saints to the Super Bowl, controversial or not. But, I mean, he won a Super Bowl. He's going to help Russell Wilson a lot. And I just think this is a game, Denver at home. This is one that the Broncos will be able to take.
You know, Joel, I'm actually disagreeing with you again. I think that the Vikings are going to take this one home. I do want to point out, though, that the Broncos have signed XFL leading passer Ben DiNucci to their team this year. He's currently listed as their 4th-string quarterback.
They got 4 quarterbacks.
They have Russell Wilson. They have Jarrett Stidham as the second. Jared Garantano.
I've
as the
never
third.
heard of that. I've
never
never heard of him in my
Let's
life.
look him up.
Is he a
I think he's
rookie?
a rookie.
I think he might have played at Tennessee at one point.
Washington State is where he. So he
Last
was,
came from at least.
Let's see. He must have been an unsigned.
He is
free
a
agent.
rookie, so it must be
Or
a
an
UDFA.
undrafted free agent.
I'm just saying, those quarterbacks, that's going to push Russell Wilson to be better.
And I honestly think Ben DiNucci might be able to shoot himself up into the second spot, considering how he played in the XFL. Obviously, it's a different world, but he might be able to do it still. Jerry Jeudy, Cortland Sutton, and Tim Patrick are all pretty mid receivers in my opinion. I don't think Jerry Jeudy's had a 1,000-yard season yet. Javonte Williams was hurt most of the year last year. I had him on my fantasy team. I was pretty upset about that.
I think I did too, actually. I had Breece Hall, I had him, and I had one other running back that got hurt
That's
too.
really unfortunate.
So yeah, it was oof.
Yeah, but their defense is atrocious at best. I think the Vikings are going to take this one, and I don't even think it's going to be close.
So, I think the Vikings will be the Vikings as usual and absolutely blow a game they should win. I don't know. It's like every year the Vikings have one game that's like, oh, we should easily beat this team. No, we get blown out by, or just like absolutely demolished. And yeah, they won't win this. But, you know, I have a theory. I don't think Russell Wilson will be the quarterback all year. I don't think
they have a quarterback good enough to overtake him at this
Nope,
point.
not at all.
Trey Lance, they can get Trey Lance.
I don't know.
Think
But
he's going to get injured or
Russ-
something?
that, or they're just going to bench him because he's doing terrible.
Has Russell Wilson really ever been hurt in his career?
I don't
re-
questionable.
Yeah,
Well,
he is listening to this question.
I don't recall him ever really having like a big injury to him.
With that too, and more bathrooms in his house than touchdowns last year. At some point in time, your team's got to be sick of that. Try the new Ben dude. Maybe he'll
Ben
go-
DiNucci.
Ben dude?
The former Cowboy.
Yeah, you never know.
Ben DiNucci actually has NFL playing time and stats.
He does.
He threw for
How did he play over Cooper Rush, though,
he
is the
threw
real
for
question.
23 for 43, 219 yards, 0 touchdowns, 0 picks in 2 games against. He actually threw for 180 yards against Philly and was sacked 4 times. And he went 2 for 3 for 39 yards against the Commanders and was sacked 3 times.
Ooh.
He threw.
Very immobile.
Oof. All right.
Yeah,
Well, he did
was-
really well with the Sea Dragons, though.
He
So,
was drafted in 2020, round 7, pick 231.
yeah.
Yeah.
I'm going to go with Sam again. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. But
It's a good thing, trust me.
well, I think the Vikings will go into Denver. They're going to ride a victory. I'm so sorry I had to say that. They're going to get a victory. They're going to bounce back after a tough loss to New Orleans. And the only way I see Russell Wilson not being the quarterback is just injury. They're paying him way too much money to just say go sit on the bench. They want to prove to people that they're not wrong about making this trade.
If the Vikings win that game, I think the Vikings are going to have to say, Vikings country, let's ride.
I hope they don't bring that back.
I hope they don't.
That's something
no, that was actually one of the corniest things I've ever seen.
Broncos need to move on from that season and just
Broncos
Everything
country.
about that needs to just go in the past.
Let's ride.
Sean Payne will not allow that to happen again.
But finally, we head into week number 12, the last one before the bye week. The Vikings head home for another primetime game. This time they're taking on Justin Fields and the Chicago Bears. The Bears are going to be a much improved team. I already had the Vikings winning the first game, and I'll have the Vikings winning again. At home, primetime, fans are going to be ready to go. If the Vikings win, if they lose, this would be a pretty tragic one. But this is one this could be a trap game even, but this is one I just simply think they're going to win, especially if they come off a loss to Denver the week before.
So I'm just going to be honest. I don't think this is even going to be close. The Vikings are going to destroy the Chicago Bears. If you've ever watched Justin Fields play, everything that controls his playing is atmosphere. It's always atmosphere. If you watch the first game that he played at Minnesota, it was Duke Shelley's first interception of the season. I don't think it was Justin Fields playing in that game.
That was Peterman.
Nathan Peterman.
Peterman.
But the Chicago Bears do not do well at US Bank Stadium. The Vikings are going to destroy the Chicago Bears.
Yeah, I'm going to give them the win here, too. The Vikings had played the Chicago before. I had them winning that game. And just, yeah, especially if they lose to Denver, they're going to be wanting to get back and right back in the saddle. And especially in the home atmosphere, I think they'll easily be able to take it. I mean, the one concern maybe Kirk playing in primetime because he tends to not be great. But, yeah. I think they're gonna get a win here.
Did we watch the Patriots game last year on Thanksgiving? That was prime time, and Kirk was feasting. This is a new Kirk. This is his second year in the Kevin O'Connell era. He's winning MVP, so he has to play well. So, and I said earlier, the first meeting they would lose, so there's that extra motivation to want to go into the bye week with with a plus and with a win. So I don't know if they'll blow them out, but they should win probably by 2 touchdowns. I wouldn't consider that a blowout.
So now that we've reached the bye week, we're going to take a peek. What do we all have them at so far? So it looks like I have them at 1, 3, 4, 5, 6. I've met 7-5 heading into the bye.
That's also what I have.
I have them at 8-4.
I also have them at 8-4.
Okay, so with that being said, we now head out of the bye. The Vikings start in Vegas for kind of an interesting game here. We got the Raiders. We got Davante Adams. This is one that I was kind of torn coming into it, and I still really don't know what to think about this game. I'll give them a win, I guess. This is one that I think it could go either way. This is just simply an interesting road match. Late game, obviously, because it's on the West Coast. But this is a game I could see either team winning this one, but I like it because it's coming out of the bye. So hopefully the Vikings will have rest. They'll be able to game plan more, and their players will be closer to healthy.
Yeah, I think the Vikings are going to take this one too. With Jimmy Garoppolo as their starting quarterback, it's going to be a rough season. Josh Jacobs and Davante Adams can't carry the entire team the whole year. So Jimmy Garoppolo is going to throw 3 interceptions in this game. Vikings are going to win it.
Yeah, I think the Vikings should be able to win this easily, especially coming off a bye. They're well rested. They're ready to get back in the fight here. And I think the Vikings could even beat Vegas not on the bye week, after the bye week, but this is the bye week, so I think they'll win pretty easily, maybe 2 to 3 score game.
Give me the Vikings winning too, but I think for Vegas, the key player who needs to step up this season is Hunter Renfrow. Very nice playmaker at Clemson. Hellsville went over 1,000 yards a couple seasons ago. Very sure-handed Mr. Third Down, but again, coming off of a bye, you are going into Vegas, which you question because some players, what do they want to do when they get to Vegas? But I think Kevin O'Connell is going to keep those guys, get those guys in the right frame of mind, and Vikings will be rolling going into a big one against Cincy.
So like was prefaced, we got Cincy next on the table. This is a to-be-determined game. Could be Saturday, could be Sunday. I'm thinking it's going to be a Saturday game, but we'll just have to see. We got the Vikings who are probably going to be, I have them at 8-5 now. So they're going to be in the running potentially for the NFC North, probably with the Lions at this point. And then we got the Bengals, who we saw played very well last year all the way into the NFC Championship, or AFC Championship, excuse me. But this is one, I think it's going to be a showdown of a game. Could be cold weather, maybe. It's also Cincinnati, which isn't super cold there, but this is the coldest weather game of the season for the Vikings. I just simply think Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase and T. Higgins and everyone there, I think they're just simply too good of a team. This is one Cincy's going to be able to take.
Yeah, I'm also going to say Cincy's going to win this one. Joe Burrow is probably a top 3 quarterback in the NFL currently. Jamar Chase is a top 5 wide receiver. And honestly, their number 2 and 3 receiver, T. Higgins and Tyler Boyd, are both also outstanding athletes. They honestly, I can't name who their starting running back is, whether it's going to be Joe Mixon or someone else, depending on his legal situation. But I don't even think they're going to need a run game at all. This is going to be a close-ish game. It'll be a 1 or 2 score game, but Cincy will take this one.
Yeah, I gotta agree with these two guys that the Bengals are just, I think, too good of a team for the Vikings, and just, the Vikings will not be able to beat them, no matter what time it is.
It's tough that Joe Burrow's going to be runner-up to Kirk Cousins in the MVP rankings, but I think Joe Burrow will outduel Kirk Cousins because he just has the better weapons, and that's just the honest truth. I think defensively they'll make enough plays, and I mean, you can't win them all, especially against Cincy at Cincy that late in the year. They're going to be in playoff mode. It's just a tough beast to play. That's probably one of their toughest games of the year besides Kansas City.
So following that game, we've got an interesting end of the season. 3 games to close it out against divisional opponents, with 2 of them against Detroit. Interesting that it's going to be this late into the season, but it's pretty clear the NFL schedule makers think the Vikings and Lions are both going to be in contention for the playoffs at this point, and I think that as well. So week 16, we got the Vikings coming back home after our communally agreed upon loss against Cincy with a big one here. We've all got the Vikings within 1 win of each other. So this is going to be one where the Vikings are going to need to win it if they want a chance of the division. So this is one at home. I think the Vikings are going to win this one. As we look at that Week 18 game against Detroit, that one's more, we'll see when we get there. But this one, I'm going to give them the win, especially bouncing back after that loss. But this is going to be a really good game here.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with Joel. I'm going to say this is another good game. I'm curious to see how Jahmyr Gibbs is going to be doing there, along with David Montgomery. This is going to be a pretty interesting game. I think the Vikings will take this one home against Detroit at home.
Yeah, I agree. The Vikings will be able to beat Detroit at home here, but it might be a completely different story when they go to Detroit 2 weeks later.
Yeah, I also have Detroit winning at home. It'll be a very competitive game. I think it'll be a very close scoring game, kind of like week 3. Joel and I had the privilege of watching that together, and KJ Osborne catching that game-winning touchdown. It might take something like that for the Vikings to pull it out against Detroit. I'm interested to see who will be the quarterback this late in the year, if it's still Jared Goff or if they go to Hendon Hooker, but part of me is riding with Jared Goff. He had such a good season last year and will only continue in 2023.
Yeah, I think Jared Goff is better than, honestly, a lot of people. A lot of people just clown on him. You know, he was a number 1 overall pick. Has he truly lived up to the number 1 overall pick status? That's a lot more questionable. But I think he did play really well, actually, last year, and he almost was able to carry them to the playoffs. But with that said, that heads us into the second to last week of the season. As of now, it's a Sunday night game, but we'll see if it gets flexed out. The Green Bay Packers are headed home on New Year's Eve. I almost said Christmas Eve. New Year's Eve. This is a really interesting one. I think we all had them. No, we did not all have them losing in Green Bay, but we almost all had them losing in Green Bay. So this is one where they're going to think about that game, and they're going to come back home in the midst of a divisional competition with the Lions. The Vikings are going to be able to win at home against the Packers. This is one where I think Justin Jefferson's going to just straight up eat Jair Alexander in coverage, especially looking at how last year in Lambeau went. This is one where Justin Jefferson's going to have this game circled with the home crowd in attendance.
Yeah, I'm going to agree on that. Kirk Cousins is going to go for a lot of passing yards. If he threw for 400 yards against the Green Bay defense, I wouldn't be surprised. I also think Madison's going to have a great game. I think he'll go for 80-plus yards from scrimmage. But yeah, Jefferson is going to go crazy.
Yeah, I agree that the Vikings will be able to beat Green Bay here, especially because Green Bay's not a great team. It's the same atmosphere. They come off a win against Detroit, and they come to demolish the Green Bay here, and then move on to the next game at Detroit, which will be interesting.
Yeah, with the division still on the line, and in my fantasy land, a potential sweep of Green Bay, they're going to be motivated. I think Justin Jefferson, as Sam pointed out, will be very motivated to play Green Bay twice this year. And we got a clean sweep once again. I don't think Green Bay is going to be as good as a lot of people are thinking. They're thinking they're going to be fairly decent, but I don't even think that's enough with Jordan Love. So it'll set up a great Week 18 showdown.
So with that said, it's time to close out the season. This is one, if I had to put my marbles on, let's actually take a look here. We are going to call an audible right here. Let's look at the Week 18 schedule, see what interesting games we got, because this is one I think could be the Sunday night game with the division on the line. So we're looking here. Bengals will probably maybe have the division locked up, I'd think, by then. Steelers-Ravens could be interesting, maybe for seeding. Jags-Titans could be interesting. I think Commanders are probably going to be out of it. Eagles, Giants could be interesting, but Giants are still paying Daniel Jones way too much money. Chiefs, Chargers could be an interesting one, but Chiefs probably have it by then too. I mean, out of all these, I think Vikings, Lions, and Bills, Dolphins are the two most interesting games, and I think those are the two most likely to be Sunday night. But with that said, we now go back to the Vikings page here. So the Vikings close out the season just 2 weeks after facing Detroit. Now they're facing Detroit again, but this time it is at Ford Field. This is one division could be on the line, surprisingly or not surprisingly, based on how you look at it. I'm going to take Detroit here. I just like Detroit. I think a key factor is the fact that it is in Detroit. Their fans sniffing a potential division title for the first time since probably the 90s, maybe even. They're gonna want it bad, and Dan Campbell's gonna coach this team hard. I just see the passion shooting out of that team, especially watching Hard Knocks last year and seeing how much those guys cared about each other. This is one where Detroit's gonna band together and take home the division title right here.
You know, Joel, I'm actually going to agree with you on this. I think the Vikings are going to take the L at the Motor City. I think that you're right. Dan Campbell's going to be coaching them really, really well for this matchup. I think that Detroit is going to be incredibly prepared, and honestly, I would not be surprised if they had a 10-win season, similar to what Joel and I have predicted.
All right, so I am going to completely go the other way with you guys. I think the Vikings will be able to win this based solely on the Lions' schedule. The Lions play the Chiefs week 1. Nobody really good. They play the Ravens in there, Chargers in there. Not like super good. Pretty much easy teams. And then they play Vikings, Cowboys, Vikings. I think they're going to be very worn down from that. And I think the week before, if the Vikings are up good on the Packers, they're going to bench some of their starters, give them a little bit of a rest. And I think the Vikings will be able to take it to them. It'll be a very close game. But I think based on the fact the Vikings had Green Bay the week before and the Lions have 3 hard games in a row there, they're going to be worn out, and the Vikings will be able to squeak by to win the division here. I think the Vikings-Lions will both be 11-5 at this point, and the Vikings will beat this to claim the NFC North title.
To kind of go off what Joel said, the Lions last won the NFC North title in 1993. It'll be 30 years. And given that we all believe that this game will be the deciding factor for the NFC North, a primetime game, you know, Dan Campbell's going to be having those numbers circled. And I think the Lions will win the North. I think the Lions will win the pivotal Week 18 game. But I also think that both the Vikings and the Lions will then end up in the playoffs. Just the Lions getting that, 1 to 4 seed type, and the Vikings having to go on the road to start the postseason. But
so as we close it out, you can see here we've filled in our records. It appears that I have put them at 10-7. At the beginning of the year, I had them 9-8 when we did our first picking of teams. I'm trying to think, what one did I have differently maybe? Maybe it was the Raiders game. Maybe I had them losing. I don't know. Could have been maybe I think I had them losing in Chicago. But whatever it was, I now have them going 10-7, 4-2 in the division. Sam here is the exact same as me, even though we had slightly different paths. We were actually similar for most of it. 10-7 with 4-2 in the division. As we scroll over here, we got Big Lou. He has the highest at 12-5 and 5-1 in the division, and Matt here at 11-6 with 4-2 in the division. So it seems like for the most part, Big Lou, it seems like has him taking home the division, the Vikings, and it appears we probably have the Vikings in the wild card. I would say probably a 6 seed maybe here, maybe even 5, but 10-7. I'd think 6 is more likely, but that's that. I don't think they'd be an 8, but interesting one. So Vikings, we all have them on the road except for Big Lou. So there you go. There's your schedule predictions. Again, like I said earlier, we'll do this again as we get a lot closer to the season, into training camp and the preseason, when some teams become more defined. Then, because some teams obviously are a ways out from us knowing their true potential. But with that said, we are now going to keep moving. I'm going to pull up the predictions tab, even though we're not doing that quite yet, but I'll just have it ready. The first thing we're going to do is talk about something that happened actually last week, but since we weren't together last week, we didn't talk about it. Zadarius Smith has been sent to the Cleveland Browns, ladies and gentlemen. In fact, the Browns received Zadarius a 2025 6th and a 2025 7th, and the Vikings receive a 2024 5th and 25 5th. So, contrary to what a lot of Vikings fans think, I'm okay with this trade. I think it's better than nothing. I honestly didn't even know if the Vikings were going to be able to trade Zadarius, just considering he's, 31 years old, I believe, 30 or 31. He's coming off a big back injury last year. He's had really injury issues his whole career. The fact that they could get anything for him, even if it's just a little bit, just a pick swap, I'm fine with that. Same with Dalvin Cook, too. If they can trade Dalvin Cook for anything, I think it's a win of a trade. So I'm fine with it, contrary to many Viking fans. I think it's actually a good trade.
You know, at first I was thinking the Vikings kind of got robbed here, but then when talking to Joel and looking at other things, yeah, he was a little bit older, dealing with some of those injuries, and the cap space will save from him. I don't know exactly what the number is on that, but I think the Vikings, I mean, they didn't get like a good deal out of it, bad deal. I think it was a decent deal, kind of a fair, I don't know, I want to say fair trade exactly, but decent deal for them. And yeah, we'll move on from that and hopefully be able to get some more good edge rushers in there.
I'm going to go opposite of you guys. I don't like this trade very much. The thing, in my opinion, you know, 5th, 6th, and 7th round picks are not very valuable, you know. So it almost feels like we're just giving them Zadarius Smith for a couple picks that are maybe a round or two higher. I mean, I really don't see that coming. Plus, the class of 2025 is not very impressive so far. The only person I can think of that's pretty impressive, but he might go in 2024, would be Kool-Aid McKinstry, cornerback from Alabama. Love that guy. He's a heck of an athlete. But I don't really see, there's not a whole lot of depth in that class of 2025. So this is going to be it's going to be interesting how it works out. Hopefully it does, but I just don't really see it working out as well as most people want it to. Bless you.
Thank you.
I don't like the trade either, but you have to kind of look at it from this perspective that Zadarius Smith doesn't want to be here. We're not going to convince him that you should stick around. He's got his mind made up. So as long as we get something, even though it wasn't enough or a lot, again, he's 31 years old, coming off that back injury. At least we got something for him, and then we just have to wait and see what we do in the draft before we can make a final grade for the trade. But, you know, we at least got something for him. It wasn't much, but...
So now that we've shared our thoughts on that, I briefly touched on Dalvin Cook, and now we're going to get more into Dalvin Cook. Again, as June 1st is approaching in about a week and a half or so, I believe, from now. June 1st is the key date in the NFL calendar with contractual kind of things. It's kind of complex how it works, so I'm not going to get all into it. But it appears Dalvin Cook will probably not be a Viking. But the latest Dalvin Cook news is a report we've got a couple days ago. I've seen it from a few different sources saying that Dalvin Cook is open to a fresh start, even though let me say it this way. I've seen that Dalvin Cook loves the Vikings, but I also, in that same article, have seen he's okay with a fresh start, which I think is going to happen. He can love Minnesota all he wants, but I just simply think the team looks at him, realize paying big money to running backs, and I mean, they got Madison too. I don't think they would have re-signed Madison how do I say this here? They would not have re-signed Madison if Madison knew that Dalvin Cook was going to be the starter again, because otherwise, why wouldn't Madison just shop elsewhere where he probably could have got even more money? So this is one where I think Dalvin Cook, no matter what, he's going to be gone come the first week of June, whether it's trade, whether it's cut. Obviously, I'm hoping for a trade because that'd be better than nothing, but this is one I just think it's imminent that he's going to be gone. So if anyone else has a thought on Dalvin Cook or paying running backs or a trade is better than nothing, you can share it, or otherwise we can continue, I guess.
I think if teams know that the Vikings will end up cutting him after June 1st, they won't do too much to try to make a trade happen. They already know they're just going to let him go. That's just my thought on that.
Or they could try trading like a 7.
They could trade a low pick just to make sure he
yeah.
doesn't get snatched by another team
Yep.
through waivers. Well, not waivers because he's an older player, so he wouldn't go through waivers.
And it does sound like the Vikings are calling around trying to find a trade for him. You know, if we're planning on cutting him right now, I'd rather we just trade him for anything we can get. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
if we can get a 2024 6th or 7th for him, that would be outstanding.
If they could trade him for a box of donuts, I would accept that, to be honest, at this point. Anything is better than nothing. That's how I feel about Za'Darius, but most people don't see it the same way I do, but that's okay.
Box of donuts for you or for the Vikings organization?
Either of them. I'd be happy for Kwesi getting some donuts.
And Kwesi's been cooking too much.
He's been
needs to
cooking.
Sit back, relax with a donut.
You're right. He's been cooking. He needs someone else to cook
Kwesi's
for him.
cooking.
A donut per Vikings player for a cook.
That's a lot of donuts. 91 donuts right now.
Oh, and you got the coaching staff too, so.
Well, would be 90 if he's gone, though.
That's
Yeah.
true.
They'd put him
That's
back
true.
down to 90.
But you got to include the coaching staffs there, the athletic.
Okay.
Everyone employed by the Vikings.
Okay, I'm gonna
Vikings players and
ask you
coaches.
guys a question. Okay, so if Dalvin Cook, let's just say he gets cut. Okay, we don't get another player for him. Who is going to replace him on the current 91-man roster?
I don't know if anyone. I'll zoom in just here for you guys. I don't know if really anyone would, because it's just weird looking at how they have 91, because it will go. Because they don't. I'll just clear up confusion here. They have 91 because they added the defensive tackle. I'll find him here. Where is he? Is he listed as a defensive tackle? Where is he? I can't think of his name. Oh, this guy here. So he was added through the International Player Pathway program, so they get an extra roster spot, so he actually doesn't count toward their 90, so really it's 91 actually, but I just don't think they'll fill that. Well, maybe they could, just with a camp body or something, but I mean, either way, if it's a player that's probably going to be cut anyways, is there a true purpose? Because I just don't know if there's really anything purposeful they can really do with that spot at this point. Not really any big names that I think they're going to try and target. I've seen Dalton Reisner, the Broncos offensive, or maybe he's a free agent now, I believe. But the former Broncos offensive guard, maybe the Vikings could make a splash there. But I just don't know, really, if there's that much they can do with that extra roster spot there.
All right, you guys don't have anything to add to. We should go to predictions.
Alrighty. So it is the time where we expose the fact that we are awful at making predictions. Except, as you guys can see, there's only white on the board. That means nothing has come off the board since 2 weeks ago when we last held our last accountability session here. So as you can see, these are all of our predictions that are currently on the board, and we've got our blacked out ones, which is the ones we're about to reveal. I'll just scroll over here so you guys can see it. There's our stats right here. Sam leads the charge with a 67%. I'm following it up with 17. Big Lou is just 0 for 1. He's only had one thing because everything's way in the future. And the listeners, our only listener, has been Matt, and we're about to have 3 more Matt predictions. So as we continue, I will just scroll that over there. Now you can't see it. And then over there's the trivia section, even though we will not be doing that today. So here we go. If anyone wants to start, and otherwise I will, but anyone want to lead us off?
Well, let's just go left to right.
Left to right. Perfect. So I will kick us off. I got to look on here. I got to remember what my first one was. All right. So we all have one prediction that is actually communally the same. It is about who will the cover of Madden NFL 24 be. So I'm going to kick it off with my prediction about the Madden cover. And my prediction here is that Jalen Hurts will be the cover of Madden NFL 24. I just feel like it makes sense. He got his big extension. He's the big marquee name in the NFL right now. It's not going to be Mahomes, since we've already seen Mahomes, I believe, twice now. They're probably not going to put him on a third time. Again, there are different ways they could go, but to me, Jalen Hurts just makes the most logical sense after he just appeared in the Super Bowl as well.
All right, so my first prediction is also a Madden cover athlete, and this one might be a little bit controversial. You guys probably just saw it there while I was scrolling through colors.
Yeah.
But I'm saying that Madden cover athlete is going to be Justin Fields. Now let me explain this just for a second. he is an outstanding athlete. I understand. He's not a great player. But I think he's going to be. I think he's going to be a great player. You know, he's an outstanding athlete. He's got good players around him. I think that eventually the Bears could be back at the top of the NFC North. That's just me.
All right, this is what I think here. If the Bears win the NFC North this year, maybe he'll be on the Madden cover next year.
Oh, I'm not saying.
But this team just finished last in the entire NFL. No way they're throwing him on the Madden cover.
And I'm not laughing at the prediction. I was just laughing at Joel. He just made me laugh for some
It was
reason.
funny. I know. I was laughing at the prediction also, to be honest, because it was pretty
funny. Gotta be honest,
funny.
though, the NFL loves an underdog, and that's exactly what he is.
They do.
Okay, that's fair.
All right. Well, I also have a Madden cover prediction, and my prediction is that Justin Jefferson will be the Madden cover for 2024. He came off a really good season here. I know the NFL loved his gritty too, so it wouldn't surprise me if it's a picture of him kind of a mid-gritty. That'd be kind of cool, but that is my prediction.
All right, I have also a prediction, but I didn't write it down, so I guess you can write down the lowest one. The lefter, yeah. I think Josh Allen will be the cover of Madden 24. An honorary or a I don't know. Honorable mention would be the Kelsey brothers.
Ooh,
That'd be cool.
That would be cool.
You know, I'm actually going to make a mention that makes a little bit of sense. How about Aaron Rodgers? I don't want him on the cover, but I think that there's a chance, you know, he's with the Jets now. There's been a lot of talk about that. The trade took forever to happen. Could be Aaron Rodgers. You never know.
Yeah, that is possible, but I still think, I mean, he's just getting toward the end of his career. I think they're going to look for a younger player here. You're right. I have to mark off the fact that it was Matt making the prediction.
And then you also missed the
I
year.
fixed it. I put it to 24.
Oh, my bad then. All right, well, with that said, we are going to head back to the left side because I am up next with my second prediction. So leading off the second time around the room, I have got a schedule kind of parlay for you. As you can now see on the screen, the Vikings will win exactly 2 of the following 3 games. At Philly versus KC versus San Fran. I actually had them going 0-3 in my schedule.
Yeah,
but
I was
hey,
gonna say.
I felt like I felt kind of optimistic here when I was writing these up. I think Wednesday or Thursday. So you never know. Sometimes you just got to throw a shot downfield, and I definitely don't think this one's gonna hit. But you never know, and I was feeling good. So
I got one.
if this one hits, I will look really cool, but it probably won't. But you never know. So the Vikings are going to win exactly 2 of those following 3 games. So tough stretch there, but you never know.
All right, my next prediction is also, again, Madden related. I don't know how many of you guys are Madden fanatics out there. I know that I personally am a Madden fanatic. But I'm going to say that Jordan Addison will have an 80-plus overall rating on Madden 24.
Interesting one there. What do you think about Justin Jefferson then? I know we kind of talked about this off air, but
Here's the thing. Justin Jefferson should be a 99 overall. I think everyone that's watching this knows that. However, I don't know. He will be above 96. He'll be above 96.
Was Adrian Peterson ever 99?
I'm sure
he has to have been.
Yeah,
No way
because
he wasn't.
I know he was the cover.
Well,
so I'm assuming he had.
He had an MVP season, so he
I suppose,
was the last non-quarterback MVP, so he had to have been.
I suppose. So, all right. I also have a Madden-related prediction, and my prediction is when Madden 24 comes out, the Vikings overall will be an 83.
Okay. So you're saying exactly 83?
Exactly 83.
Okay. Really specific, but I like it. So with that said, we're now going to throw it to Matt for his second prediction.
Well, now I'll have one extra prediction, but I'll.
That
take
is
it.
okay. We are
Just gonna make
fine
sure
with
I
it.
got the right one. All right. So I guess the running gag here is they're all making fun of me for my Kirk Cousins MVP prediction. Okay, I can't walk down the street without being harassed by little kids like, that kid just said Kirk Cousins was going to win MVP. Can you believe it? It's like, yeah, I know. Delusional. But how is Kirk Cousins going to have an MVP season? Well, for starters, he's going to throw less than 10 interceptions this season. No, I go to Matt Stafford's season where they won the Super Bowl. When he threw for 4,886 yards, 41 touchdowns, 17 interceptions. I think that number would go down for Kirk just solely based on this is year number 2 in the Kevin O'Connell system. They're adding more weapons, and they're going to throw the ball a lot just given that they have Hawk, they got Addison, Osborne, and Jefferson. Very big stretch, potentially 4 guys with 1,000 yards. I highly doubt that. 3 maybe, even that. But I think Kirk Cousins will have a great year statistically throwing the ball, and he'll do that by cutting down on interceptions.
Okay, so you were going to share something?
No.
I
was just going to say I agree with you.
Not perfect. Well, with that said, we are now going to head into our third and final prediction, except for him. He's got 4, but that's okay. We are fine with it because it's entertaining. So, for my third and final prediction, it is actually one in relation to what we were doing today. My prediction... I'm scrolled over. Okay, good. The Bengals and Vikings game will be played on a Saturday this year. So, like said, that was a flexible game. It could be Sunday, could be Saturday. I think this one is going to be a Saturday. We just got the LSU against LSU Bowl. We got Burrow and Cousins. We got Jamar and we got Justin. Everything about it just screams, I don't know if primetime viewing window is the word here, but a standalone window, I think, is what we're going to see here. So I think whether it's an afternoon game or it's going to be a night game, which is probably going to be one of each, or maybe there's going to be all 3. I don't know. But I think this is one that's going to be a Saturday, maybe even a Saturday night. That'd be interesting. But yeah, there's my prediction. Vikings and Bengals will be a Saturday game.
Okay, so for my next prediction, this is also going to be Jordan Addison related.
Whoops.
I am going to say that Jordan Addison will have 900 plus yards from scrimmage in the regular season this year.
That would be interesting.
And I only say yards from scrimmage because I'm going to guess that he'll get a couple of carries as well, whether those be technically screen passes or whether he gets a jet sweep or if they plan to flex him in the backfield as well. Whatever they plan to do, I think he'll have 900 plus yards from scrimmage in the regular season.
We know Kevin O'Connell is about inclusivity and moving players around, and we saw that with Justin Jefferson. He lined up in the slot, outside, inside. He was in the backfield. I do recall that when they played Green Bay, he caught a touchdown from the backfield. So that just makes it a lot harder to cover because there's probably going to be a linebacker on them. But yeah, I think this is something they could do with Jordan Addison too. So I like that prediction.
My prediction here is kind of hating on the Bears and the Packers here, but my prediction is both Bears and Packers will have record of 500 or less.
This is Big Lou's third prediction of a team or player team having a record under 500.
Because why not?
I just wanted to point out the fact that it's kind of a streak here, the fact that he keeps doing that. But whatever, we like it.
We gotta have fun.
I don't think the Packers will finish under a record of 500, but maybe that's just me. I think 9-8 is
maybe not.
See.
We'll see.
But that's just me there.
All right, Joel, you can uncover the one
So,
that I put, but
the second one or the one right now?
It's the one below the Josh Allen one.
The one above.
Yeah, the one above the Josh Allen.
All right, perfect. Here we go. His third prediction of 4 is.
Well, we kind of talked about this earlier. We kind of did it with the schedule. I kind of didn't put 2 and 2 together, but I think the Lions are going to win the NFC North. I mean, we kind of talked about it. I think this is just the Dan Campbell experience, and it's finally going to work. A process has been trusted. It's been put in place, and I just think it's about time the Lions had something to root for.
I like how you followed through with your schedule prediction, unlike me on this one. I just, whatever.
Completely.
It felt like some optimism, but probably won't happen anyways.
And finally, my final prediction, let me get some stuff in here, but, in Minnesota, there's a lot of players I don't like. Max Kepler's one. He's loved by the females, and he just doesn't produce on the field. And that's why I don't like him. Joel will understand this one. Jermaine Palacios, I hate him. He was worthless for the Twins, But
what about Emilio Pagan? Are you a Pagan hater like me?
Oh, send him to the moon. I'm done with Emilio Pagan, but they'll still give him opportunities. Who's the Vikings player that I hate? You guessed it. Probably not. Greg Joseph. I'm not a big fan of Greg Joseph. I think he's blowing games for us. He will blow games for us at some point. So I think he will be replaced at some point during the season. Whether, I won't say injury, but I'll just say based off of poor performance, he will be benched. They'll go pick somebody up off waivers. And
Well, he was first overall in the NFL in winning field goals.
They should have been winning anyway, so
Well,
they shouldn't have even
yeah, they
needed to
shouldn't
get
have
to
been-
that point.
They shouldn't have had
Also-
He also led
was
the
still
NFL.
first.
He also led the NFL in missed extra
missed
points
extra
though too.
points.
But
Yeah.
That's what you
But
should
He
be
made
making.
one lucky kick from 66 yards against the Giants, okay? That was luck. Now, was it an awesome kick? Yes, it was. But it was still lucky. You can't be missing 9 extra points as an NFL kicker. As Ninja said, how do NFL players just miss kicks?
you say, as Ninja said,
Ninja.
How is
you're not seeing the
Ninja?
tweet?
How is Ninja commenting on
Ninja?
this?
Ninja
like the gamer Ninja?
The gamer
No.
Ninja
Ninja's
once
never-
tweeted, "How do NFL kickers just miss
He
kicks?"
should try
Ninja's
that.
never played
And then
football a day
someone's-
in his life.
And then someone said, "How do Fortnite players miss kills?" And he goes, "There's actually just a lot of strategy when it comes to Fortnite, like the scopes and the guns. It's just
There's
funny.
a lot of strategy coming to football too, Ninja.
Ninja's
it was a
never
funny. It was
played
a funny
football a day in
exchange.
his
You
life.
need
He-
11 guys playing together at the same time to play football. You need one decent person to play video game.
Ninja is also a Detroit Lions fan,
Yeah,
so he will finally, if my predictions come true.
it's because he watched Justin Tucker the game. Justin Tucker broke the record.
Yeah, I mean,
That's why he feels this way.
Yeah, I mean, it's not. You just kick the ball through the
How
uprights.
do
Come
NFL
on.
kickers just miss kicks? Oh boy, we
Yeah,
should put
we've-
him on a field.
Ninja.
Hey, you know, like the movie, like The Waterboy, and
Yeah.
how they said Michigan State tried out their towel boy at wide receiver. I think that the Detroit Lions should try out Ninja at wide receiver
As a
against the
kicker.
Minnesota Vikings.
The official tweet from Ninja reads, "I'll never understand how college and NFL football teams allow kickers that just miss kicks. I feel like there should be pools of kickers in the USA that won't miss simple kicks, or snapper that won't mess the snaps. I don't know, man. It seems so silly. Would love to have your opinions." And someone said, "I'll never understand how pro Fortnite players just miss shots." He responds with, "This is the stupidest reply ever. Fortnite requires movement, editing, building, rotating, and hitting shots. These are not positions in Fortnite. A kicker's job is literally to kick." Horrible analogy, kind of embarrassing.
Oh
so
man.
as Ninja,
Oh boy, Ninja. For the
So-
people that are watching, if you don't understand something, don't make comments about it, please, because
So-
you look stupid.
so to Greg Joseph, when you get cut, it is because you simply just missed kicks.
Yeah, just take Ninja's advice and just make
How
them.
about the Vikings cut Greg Joseph and put Ninja on the roster? Then he can show us what's up.
No, and invite him to a training camp and have a
Yeah.
kickoff against him.
I will say this: the dumbest decision I think the Vikings have ever made was letting go of Daniel Carlson after 2 games, especially
Yeah,
since
yeah.
they did draft
It
him,
was.
and now how good he is with the Raiders. We could still have had him, but
Which team was it that drafted a kicker in the 3rd round? This
Roberto
That was-
Aguayo
did
with
the
the
Niners?
Buccaneers.
Niners.
The Niners.
did.
The Niners drafted
Yep.
one high.
Oh yeah, Jake Moody.
Yes, third round.
Jake
Hold on,
Moody
I'm
is a
gonna
good
look at this
kicker,
guy.
but I
I've
do
seen
remember
quite a few memes
When
about
was
that.
McPherson drafted?
he was a 5th round, I think.
Okay. I mean, he's worth it.
Aguayo
Great
was
player.
one of the highest
Jake
drafted.
Moody.
Roberto Aguayo was the highest drafted kicker. and
Jake
he
Moody
just-
was drafted at pick 99, which is 2 picks before Kelly Ringo.
There's a hole in the roster, and they went and addressed it. Was it high? Probably.
I mean,
That's
yeah,
fine.
that's
They
true though.
needed a
Their
replacement.
roster is really complete.
Okay, but
Where
if
else
Kelly
would they-
Ringo was available, take him. Add some depth to your defensive backs because they're always hurt. Jimmy Ward was playing with a cast on last year, for crying out loud.
Guys,
Get some better depth.
I hate to interrupt this, but I got a golf tee time in less than 10 minutes. So
All right. Well, that is
Okay,
going to close it out.
alright.
I think we've pretty much voiced our opinions. I don't like Greg Joseph, but I don't think they should have re-signed him, and there's a lot of controversy about Ninja as well, too. We kind of got carried away. But sometimes that's the fun of podcasts, getting carried away. Just like how Abraham Pope plans massive hands. That is going to do it for today's stream. Thank you guys so much for watching. Be sure to tune in next week for first summer edition, even though nothing's really going to... Well, things will change. But you'll have to see when you get there. But we will no longer have school. We will all be no longer high schoolers. Well, we will be by definition, but we still really won't be. But that's going to do it. Thank you guys so much for watching. Be sure to leave a like and subscribe. Stay tuned for next week.